Well, hello there, and welcome to the podcast where our goal is to remind you that amidst the chaos and craziness of the world today, there are still plenty of good things that are worth shouting about. In each episode of this podcast, we're going to be joined by nonprofit professionals, leaders, experts, and advocates to hear their stories, facilitate conversation and connection within the nonprofit sector, and hopefully put a smile on your face. We like that. I'm Matt Barnes. This is Nonprofit Connect. Let's share some good.
Hello.
Wow.
On today's episode,
No.
starring Tiffany Pope with her co-star Matthew Barnes.
Wow, you're getting bolder and bolder with this. I don't know how I feel about it. Welcome to Nonprofit Connect with Matt Barnes and
Tiffany Pope.
yes, Tiffany is here as well. In addition to
Nope. I'm the face
not
of
starring.
I'm the face of this
You are
podcast.
young and ambitious.
Yeah. A girl can dream. A girl can dream.
Can dream. The
Yeah.
girl can dream.
Girl can dream.
And she should keep dreaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not some
Because the reality is you're on my podcast.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Maybe I should start a podcast.
You should. You should start a podcast.
Yeah, what should I start it? I don't know
Not
if people would listen.
ASMR, because before we started recording, Tiff was doing ASMR whispering into the microphone and making weird sounds with her mouth, and it kind of made me want to throw up a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
kind of
gonna
weird.
lie.
It is kind of creepy.
I was like,
yeah.
Where's the trash can? Ooh. Oh, man. All right. So today, I want to pretty quickly get into this because
Yeah.
this is a pretty sweet episode I'm really excited about. Our guest today is from Charity Water, which is one of the largest nonprofits,
no
in the
big deal,
world.
no big deal.
in the world. No big deal. Christa Stelzmuller, she is the Chief Technology Officer at Charity Water.
Wow.
And she actually came here. We actually got to record in person. I haven't recorded a podcast in person here in the podcast studio in quite a while.
In forever.
Like the first couple months, it was all local people coming here. And then like the last year has been like almost entirely on Zoom.
Yeah.
So it was nice. We found out that she was local. And so we said, do you want to come over? And she's like, yeah. So she was great. And we had such a great conversation. She has such a wide range of experience and viewpoints to bring to nonprofits and to Charity Water from a technology standpoint. But most of her career was in the for-profit sector. So she's seeing how technology was applied there and finding the challenges in applying it to nonprofits. So she's got a lot of great insights. We honestly probably could have talked for
Forever.
a few hours more easily.
As if you don't talk enough.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I'm chatty.
Yeah, you're just a yapper. As the youth would say, you're a yapper.
Is that what the youth would say?
Yeah. They would be
Yapper?
like, yeah, you're...
That sounds like something I feel like my grandpa would say.
Well, maybe we're bringing
Oh,
it
you're
back.
such a yapper. You're a little yapper. You know?
Yeah.
Sounds like an old person thing, not a young person thing.
Well, we're bringing all the trends
What's
back.
old is new. What's young is old. What's old is young. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So we will be right back with Christa Stelzmuller from Charity Water right after this
Brief message.
from
Matt Barnes.
Goodbye. We are brought to you by Rogue Creatives. I started Rogue Creatives in 2016 because I saw so many people doing amazing things, like life-changing work. And either they're spending all their time trying to figure out how to connect with people and get their story out there instead of doing what they love, what they got into it to do, and what they were good at, or they ignored all that and they just did what they loved, but not enough people knew about them, or nobody knew about them, even worse. My background is in education and organizational leadership. When I was doing my master's in education, I learned that the best way to educate someone to connect their heads and their hearts is through story. In my organizational leadership program, I learned how to help an organization define its character, its voice, its values, its personality. So I took the best of those and I combined them to create the strategic storytelling framework that we use at Rogue Creatives to define an organization's character so that we could tell their story while freeing the organization up to do what they do best. We've helped dozens of nonprofits define their personalities and increase their reach as they bring new donors and volunteers into their stories. And as you well know, more donors means more money, means more people getting the help that they need. And that means the world's becoming a better place because of the character in your story. So get started today by visiting roguecreatives.com/NPC. That's NPC for Nonprofit Connect. And schedule a free brand consultation and take our free online brand character quiz. That's roguecreatives.com/NPC to begin defining your brand character today. There's no commitment or risk for you at all. And come on, don't you want to meet us? We're super fun, I promise. Rogue Creatives. Seriously, creative storytelling. Okay, enough from me. Back to me and our guest. Christa Stelzmuller from Charity Water, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about this is our first live, in-person, in-studio interview in so long that I almost don't know what to do with myself.
Oh, I was excited to actually come in and do it live.
I'm so happy you did. It's so nice not to just be staring at a screen. I get to talk to a real person. Wow. So, okay, we always start off with a segment we call 3 Random Questions. I've got a list of about 100, maybe more, random questions, and then I have a randomizer that chooses 3 of them.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you do it? You'd be all right?
I think I'll be okay.
Okay. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Oh, it was a George Michael concert.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
I don't even remember what year it was, but yes.
That's a good first one.
Yeah, it was fun.
I bet. Do you enjoy concerts? Do you enjoy live music?
I do. I like going out to concerts. It's one of the nicer things to do when you go out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun. Okay. If someone were to walk through the door with whatever food you wanted right now, what would it be?
It would probably be strawberries.
Strawberries?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of strawberries.
Okay. Not chocolate?
No, it's strawberries.
Are you a pretty healthy eater?
I'm a pretty healthy eater.
Oh, that's good. Good. I'm trying to learn the ways of being healthier.
Yeah, strawberries are just packed full of good stuff.
They are.
In addition to tasting fabulous.
Yes. Actually, I do like strawberries. All right, last question. What is something that you get nerdy about?
The Olympics.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't rattle off any stats, but when they're on, typically I'm in. I've got my laptop there. I'm researching people. I'm like trying to understand what's happening. So I get pretty nerdy about the Olympics.
Very cool. Now, here's the thing with the Olympics this year. I feel like I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah.
My wife and I were talking about the other day. We saw something and we're like, it's this year?
Yeah.
Somehow we missed this.
I know. And it feels like it's going to be next month, right?
Right.
I think it's next month. And there's not this big lead up.
Right. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. The hype's not there.
None of us watch commercials anymore.
That is part of it. Maybe.
Probably part of it.
I did have somebody last week say, oh, have you seen that commercial about whatever? And I'm like, I don't know the last time I saw a commercial when I'm watching commercials anymore. I kind of miss it a little bit, you know? Like
sometimes they were entertaining. Yeah. Not always.
Yeah, definitely not always. I feel like the TiVo days were nice because you could watch the ones you wanted and then skip the others. But with online, you're either all or nothing, right?
Oh, I haven't thought about my TiVo in ages.
I know, right? The kids these days, they'll never know the pain that we had back in the day. Well, you passed. Good job on the 3 questions. You did well. You did well. All right, let's jump into it. Well, tell me about you. What's your origin story? How did you get to where you're at?
Ooh, it's been quite a circle. I didn't actually start in technology.
Okay.
I thought I was going to go into political science, and so I got a degree in political science.
Okay.
Went out to Washington, D.C., interned at a nonprofit.
Okay.
And thought that I was going to be moving into that area.
Okay.
And then realized that I couldn't afford that.
Which is sad, by the way.
Which is really sad.
That's a whole conversation we could go and do.
Exactly. And so I ended up coming back to Southern California, and it was at a time when technology was really starting to grow quite a bit. And I joined Deloitte Consulting at the time, and then they trained me up. It was fantastic. And that's how I got started in my technology career. And it was only a few years before the dot-com boom really started going. And I joined the whole startup train and did that for a very long time.
Okay.
And over the course of that, I kept trying to get closer back to doing the thing that was mission-oriented, that would pay a different kind of bill, I guess, like my internal bill. And the opportunities for startups, there was a lot. And then this last time, after working at a mission-based startup, I started looking at B Corps, and I said to myself, why not just go the whole way, like go back and start working for a nonprofit again? I said, there must be nonprofits out there that are looking for technology professionals like myself. And so I started the search and very, very happily ran across the opportunity at Charity Water and immediately reached out. And that is how I am there today. And so I sort of came full circle, back around, got a little bit closer back to where I wanted to have started my career.
And you've been at Charity Water not too long, just a little over a year.
A little over a year.
Nice. Yeah. And how's it going?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy there. I mean, what a great group of people.
Yeah.
Really fantastic group of people. Super focused on the mission.
Yeah.
And a great technology team. I knew just through awareness that Charity Water focused on things like technology. They were very different in the sense that when I spoke to them versus some other nonprofits, they really saw technology as a revenue driver overall. And that said volumes to me about what the opportunities would be there.
Yeah.
So it's a great team. Super fun to work with. Very, very sharp group of people.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you hear about these larger nonprofits sometimes, or just larger organizations. It's like hearing about a celebrity, and then you find out, like, are they as cool as you hope that they are? Is Charity Water going to live up to our hopes and our dreams? Oh, and I've never heard anybody speak poorly of Charity Water. They have a great reputation.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because there's a great sense of community there. There's a focus on marketing. There's a focus on the mission. Everyone really tries to see their role in the mission and how they're going to contribute, and they put everything into it. So it's really fulfilling.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have come back to a nonprofit. Yeah.
That's so great. I'm happy for you and for them. Let's talk about technology, because I don't get a lot of people here talking about technology, which probably doesn't surprise you too much, right?
Yeah.
Coming from for-profit world and the technology side there, what's the transition there for you? Like coming into the nonprofit world for technology, was it just like, yeah, that's the same thing over here? Or is it like, oh man, there's a chasm here?
So it was both.
Okay.
And I'll try to explain what. So on the technology side, it's very similar.
Okay.
The problems are the same. When you're working in revenue, for instance, I like to share with my team, I feel like I'm working for a D2C company while I'm also working for a SaaS company because the environment is very similar, right? When it comes to raising revenue, I think what's different is how the money gets spent. So that's where the chasm starts to emerge, is the customer. There's two types of customers. There's the customers we're serving, and then there's the folks that we're asking to help with the mission. And so you have two customers to really focus on and get the work done. And then the flip side of it is just the financials and just the mechanisms of running the business. You have all the same problems of running a for-profit business.
Of course.
But you have all of these constraints around you in the nonprofit world, which lead me to do things differently as someone who's leading technology than I might do them in a for-profit context.
Yeah.
So that, I think, was where the difference really came alive for me.
The need's the same.
Yes.
But the ability to address that need is different.
Is very different.
And what, I mean, more practically, and just for listeners who, maybe this isn't your area, you don't know, when she's talking about D2C, that's direct to consumer, and SaaS is software as a service. But from the technology side, a lot of technology now is so built to address business problems. The lingo's very much in there. What's a practical example of some of the challenges there?
I think some of the challenges would be when I'm facing a build versus buy decision, I have to really consider how the buy option will change our picture. Like if we make a big investment from a buy standpoint, this is now the portion of our funds that we're going to dedicate to operating the business versus programmatic expenses.
Sure.
And those funds are constrained in a way that you can't make choices in the same way.
Right.
And marketing is another clear one that comes to the forefront. I mean, we would make decisions in the world of growth that would direct quite a bit of investment into marketing so that we could actually build awareness and attract consumers in the for-profit world. And that's just not available to you in the same way in a nonprofit. Yes, it exists. Like, sure, people market, but you're constrained with how much you can actually invest there. Yeah.
And how insane is that? I mean, to the point of
go out and solve this problem, fix the biggest problems in the world. Don't spend any money on it though. And also the core of your mission is to bring about awareness so that people can support, but don't spend money to bring about that awareness.
That's right.
It's like, wait, what? How does this work? And you end up being so hamstrung to be able, have you been able to work around that and find solutions, or is it still that constant push and pull?
I think there's a tension there.
Yeah.
We try to get creative.
Sure.
I think any constraint breeds creativity in some respect, right?
Sure.
And so focusing on brand awareness and focusing on those channels that may not cost as much, this is where we end up spending our time. The team is so great at telling stories, right? And really pushing that angle. And so it forces you to get creative in ways that I think you might not otherwise spend your time getting creative in. But at the same time, you can't capitalize on momentum in the same way.
And there's a balance to be had, and that's true in any area. I think whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, that constraint can bring about creativity, but then you can go too far with that where you're just being constrained now, and or you're spending so much time trying to come up with creative solutions that you're not able to get the job done as effectively. And I think that's where a lot of nonprofits, especially probably smaller nonprofits that don't have the resources, end up struggling a lot with that. I don't know if you have any examples of practical compromises or solutions or creative things you've come up with. We do this so that other nonprofits can learn from each other and all of that. And one of the things I found is that even if I'm talking to you or I'm talking to David from the One Campaign or something like that, the issues are the same for the small nonprofit down the street. It's just a matter of scale. So are there things that you've experienced that would be helpful for anyone in this space as far as just that outside the box creative thinking?
I don't want to take anything away, but I don't think it's revolutionary, right? It's a moment where if you're not going to be able to funnel a bunch of money into paid advertising, for instance, whatever you do put up has to be great and it has to be evergreen so that you can tweak it and iterate on it, but it can't be recreating the wheel every single time. And so you end up looking for efficiencies as much as possible. So it doesn't feel like a revolutionary piece of advice, but I think it really comes down to eking the most out of every last thing that you're doing, right?
How much of the sort of categorization of expenses goes into those decisions? Because I was talking with a friend of mine who runs a nonprofit. They work with veterans who are experiencing PTSD and providing counseling services and retreats and things like that for them. And he was going, it's insane because I pay freelance people to come in and lead these retreats and do the trainings and do all of this stuff. It costs me 3 times more to do that. But that's a program expense. But if I were to hire the person, technically that's a staffing expense.
That's right.
And so he's like, but from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, it's so much smarter for me. I would have a full-time person. We could do more retreats. We could do more things. It would cost me less money. And yet to look good on my scores and all that stuff, I've got to. So how do you delineate where to draw that line where sometimes you go, screw it, we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do. And then other times where you kind of got to play the game a little bit.
Well, I think Charity Water in particular opts far away from playing the game. So I think we're pretty conservative in terms of most of our expenses, right? And so we take every hire super seriously. And I think hiring on the more senior level, even though this is where I think that trade-off might happen. It's worth to spend a little bit more to hire a more senior individual. It's going to pay off in the long run. And so that aspect of it, I think, rather than trying to just pay the minimum all the time, I think that's an area of where Charity Water will try to invest, right? And make sure that we're hiring the right folks to get things done. And the more each of us can wear many, many hats, the better off the situation is.
Absolutely. You guys were featured in Uncharitable, the documentary. And one of the things in that really hit me was when they were talking about somebody graduating from Harvard or something like that, and you go out and get a job in the for-profit sector at a Fortune 500 company or something making $450,000 a year, or be an executive director at a nonprofit for 100 or less. And the reality is they're smart enough to know, well, I'm going to take the 450 and I can give a third of my salary away get the tax write-off, be on the board, and tell that executive director how to do their job and get more credit probably.
Right.
But it was such a stark thing because you're going, yeah, we aren't getting that top talent to solve these major problems. And I think that is, again, like I was saying, you have to choose your battles. And I'm glad for Charity Water to choose that one and go, no, we're going to invest in the right people.
Yeah, for sure. And even so, I know a lot of folks in the sector, they have something on the side, right?
Yeah,
because everyone is everyone feels so committed to working in the space, but they have side hustles.
Yes, of course. So what does technology actually look like at Charity Water? Like, how are you implementing, and what types of things are you implementing?
We run the website.
Sure.
So, I mean, our entire fundraising machine is implemented through technology. Probably doesn't look that different from what you would expect in a normal startup. Maybe we're a little bit different from a startup as we might invest in enterprise piece of software versus something that a startup might go with.
Yeah.
And so there's trade-offs like that because we're really looking for the solution that's going to carry us through the long term, not just through the next couple years. And so I think it's a pretty comparable stack, right?
Okay.
We're running our website Ruby on Rails. It's like a very common implementation. And we have Salesforce as our CRM.
Okay.
We have a GL. We have all the things that people would expect. And so where we really try to differentiate, I think, is we're very forward-thinking in terms of our implementation of tools. So right now, the entire organization is asking me for all of these AI capabilities that we can deliver on. And so we're navigating the data privacy aspect alongside trying to enable and help people push forward with all of these capabilities, because that's the first thing. And with an innovation mindset, everyone is wanting to embrace this right away. And we have to be a little bit conservative. We can't move maybe as quickly as another organization might, but we try to adopt it as quickly as possible.
But that might also behoove you at times because with AI, there's still a lot of questions.
Sure.
There's still a lot of uncertainty. Let's talk about AI, actually, because that is obviously a huge topic and one that comes up in nonprofit conversations. I run a creative agency as well, and so it comes up a lot on that side as well as we're working with nonprofits, as we're working with for-profits, as we're doing our own stuff, and just looking at, like, how do we utilize this? Do we wait and see? Do we embrace it? And it's been so interesting for me to see the various reactions, even within my own team, on such a spectrum. Speak to Charity Water specifically. You said pretty forward-thinking. Are most people are pretty embracing of that?
I think most folks are embracing it. I think there's trepidation, certainly around data privacy,
of
right?
Course.
Because we take data privacy super seriously. And so making sure that we're not going too far, too fast in this space without the right protections in place, that's an element where we'll probably slow it down a bit. But whether it's copywriting or whether it's our finance team who's looking for analysis accelerators, right? It's across the board that whether it's, we have a ton of imagery that we bring in from our various projects and trying to push that forward and make recognition of what's happening inside of those images, generating alt text from whatever it looks like. Stuff. It's all in the mix.
Yeah, it has been crazy. The things that even this year we could do that we couldn't do last year, that, we had somebody, a client of ours, a nonprofit recently say, we've got this picture. It's got to be the picture on our website. Like, it's got to be the thing. And we're going, okay, cool. And they send it to us and it's a square. And you're going, like, we have some issues here, but it's this beautiful picture. And we were able to bring it into Photoshop and generate what would be over here. And when we showed it to them, because we didn't know, we weren't there. It was taken in India. I don't know. And we show it to them and they're like, that's what it looks like there. That's what it would probably be.
Right.
And we were able to use that. And so where a year ago it would have been like, I don't know what to tell you. We have to find something comparable. We got to go back to, I don't know, whatever. We have these options now, but it is a weird kind of thing where you're like, sometimes I don't know how I feel about it. But then also, like any other tool, it's try and start implementing and see, but there's definitely a caution.
There's a flip side to it, though, at the risk of bringing up one of the campaigns that the team ran with. It was around AI, and one of our folks took some photos and started altering them with AI just to show what would could actually happen with some of those images. And it ended up evolving into a campaign because AI can't fix dirty water, right? And so that ended up being the line. And
that's cool.
So the team is using it, I think, not just in terms of how they get work done every day, but they're also using it for inspiration in terms of how they tell the story.
Well, that's actually been, I mean, not in that way. That's genius to kind of see that there. But that for me has been, aside from editing a photo or making tweaks or whatever, because a lot of the stuff, that one came out great. Some of them do not come out great.
Right.
Oh, I need to see her hand. Oh, now she has 6 fingers, whatever.
Right.
Or webbed hands or whatever it is, which I'm sure that'll all get worked out. But the brainstorming, the ideating, trying new things that aren't really taking things away from people, but giving us head starts or challenging us in different ways have been really great. And I've been encouraging people to lean into that a little bit more. I probably need to lean into that a little bit more. I'm not as young as some of the other people. So it's not the first thing that comes to mind,
Right.
Somebody goes, I need an idea. And I sit down, I start, what can we come up with?
I think all of us are having to retrain ourselves to tell ourselves, there's this help out there now. We can do this and we can do it faster. Then we don't have to come up with it entirely on our own. Yeah. And I think if you approach it from that angle, you can get really far with it. Yeah. Right? You'll start to learn it and incorporate it. But it's also a mind shift for me. I have to keep reminding myself.
Right. And that's as a technology person, like that's your job. And it's still like, we have that. We can, how can we integrate that?
Exactly.
Yeah. The new tools. And they're changing constantly, too.
Right.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. I mean, that's the world right now, right? It's hard to stay on top of what's going on and what's real and what's...
Right. It's staying on top of what's real, for sure.
Yeah. So you had talked about the choice between build or buy.
Yeah.
How much do you end up building and how much do you end up...
We actually do end up building more often.
Really?
Sometimes the things... I'll give a different example of where we work in technology, where we've definitely gone in on building, and that's our sensors for our wells.
Oh, okay.
So the space is open space right now. And so there's definitely a need to be able to make sure that we're creating sustainable solutions and being able to demonstrate that we're not just putting in a water point, we're putting in a water point that's going to last, right? That's a whole different value proposition, that it's going to be something that you can count on over time. And we want to be able to prove that out. And so we've been developing the mechanisms for monitoring around this in particular. And that's been a big build investment of ours. And that's a choice that you make, I think, primarily because folks need it. It doesn't exist. We need to fill the gap. Sure. And then as the sector starts to move forward, and our implementations change and evolve to serve different types of communities, larger communities, different needs, then we start looking at solutions that might already exist in the market. So then we end up with augmented approaches where it's partial build, partial buy, right? But we end up building a lot. I mean, we even just went through a whole thing around our donation form where we evaluated whether we were going to outsource our entire donation flow. And for cost reasons and experience reasons, we just ended up opting to stick with our build scenario, even though it's just not something I would have normally done in that context. But primarily, I think mostly for cost reasons, we opted away from it.
So it was cheaper for you to build out your own donor platform than to opt into somebody else's?
For sure.
Really?
For sure, yeah. Okay. Because transaction fees are expensive. I don't know if anyone's noticed.
Yes, they can get up there.
They're pretty expensive. And so I feel like there's a breaking point that gets hit eventually, right? In these models where you have to think, and variable cost structures don't work as well for us. We have a 100% model that's super important to charity water. And a variable cost model doesn't really work as well in our context. And so a lot of these models that are built on transaction fees don't work out as well as they could otherwise.
Interesting. It sounds like Charity Water is innovative in their approach to things. You're looking at what's next and what we can do. What are some of the, besides obviously the sensor thing is really cool, are there other areas that are more about the structure of nonprofit or the fundraising or whatever, that kind of thing, where you guys have done some innovating?
I think the entire model is meant to be innovative, right? It's something that is super important to the organization overall, and how we maintain it and grow it. I think that's the challenge today. I think that's the part that maybe everybody hits at some point is you've made some clear decisions, right? Because of trust and transparency and all of the rules that exist in the world of nonprofits. And then that will get you so far. And then there comes a point where you have to figure out what the next level of innovation is at. And so I think we're at that point right now is how we actually grow the model going forward.
Yeah. How often do you have those conversations where you're actually like, what's next? What's next? You know,
we have them all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So we focus on, we have a 2030 plan.
Yeah.
So we try to look out for a few years.
Sure.
But every year we're evaluating where we're at in that plan and asking ourselves what we need to do next. And things like how we grow, those form the basis of every conversation that we're having. And so whether it's a conversation about innovation and what we're going to be, we're also bringing a new retail space out. And it's not retail in the sense that we'll be selling, but it's an in-person experience for Charity Water. And when we bring that out, I think that'll be new and it'll feel very different and it'll allow us to showcase technology and things of that nature. And that's a big part of what's happening this year. Next year, there's going to be a focus on how we actually grow in terms of our operational revenue. And so every year we have to take another view of what's next.
Is that a company-wide conversation? Is that a leadership conversation that trickles down?
We try to have it at the entire company level, but we certainly set strategic directions with that in mind. And then the leadership team comes and fills in the next level of details and then works with their teams. So we try to take a very direction setting from the executive team and then allowing the rest of the team to bring in where they think they can fill in and make the plan happen.
How long has Charity Water been around?
About 17 years.
Okay. So in some ways, that's a very long time compared to some other nonprofits. It's a very short time. That growth, I know you weren't there for the whole time, obviously, but was that a fairly quick growth or did it take a good while to establish?
I wasn't there, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but just looking at the history, I think there were moments of growth and then moments of stability and then moments of growth. I think with any younger organization, there's those pivot points that occur in the organization's history. And I think Charity Water experienced a couple of those pivot points.
Do you know what some of those might have been?
Sure. I mean, I think there was a lot of success. Well, in the early days, there was a lot of success with the on-the-ground awareness pieces of it. And that sort of got the ball rolling, right? It started a degree of momentum. I think if you listen to Scott's story, he'll share about the fact that it was really, really hard. And then there was just one person who changed everything. And then that set the momentum going and set the stage to start driving some brand awareness. And that was the next moment. And then there were a few key viral moments that occurred in Charity Water's history. And those viral moments really did a lot to accelerate awareness and the mission overall.
For that one key person, how did they get pulled into the story? Was it somebody that was already involved and they started getting more involved?
I think it was Scott who reached out. He was reaching out to different folks and just sharing the need in a very powerful way. And that is what convinced a couple folks.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I'm asking, and this is true across the board, it doesn't matter if you're for-profit, nonprofit, but you never know what that thing is or who that person's going to walk through that door or the conversation you're going to have. And I can look, I mean, I'm sure most of us can look back in our lives and a lot of the really pivotal moments were ones that you couldn't have planned. Were ones that I was in the right time at the right place, ran into the right person. You know, I had one a couple weeks ago where I was at an event here that I wasn't supposed to be at. I was supposed to go home. I had actually asked somebody else to be here that night instead of me because I wanted to go home and be with my kids, and ended up sticking around just a little bit longer than I should have. It was just a sequence of events that never would have happened and shouldn't have happened, and yet opened all these doors. I like to encourage leaders, especially of nonprofits, who are just going like, what do I do? And it's just open up to those opportunities.
That's right. Right. And I think you took advantage of that opportunity, right? The key is recognizing when that opportunity is there, right?
And see the door and walk through it.
See the door and walk through it. Exactly. Because I think you can have a lot of passion for everything that you're doing. But you have to recognize when those opportunities are landing. And like you said, they're not always planned. Right.
Well, like even for you, going into the technology, going into the for-profit world, and then being able to come full circle and see like, oh, I could apply all this over there now and do that thing that I originally wanted to do.
Right.
Door opens, there you go. And suddenly you're working for one of the largest nonprofits in the world. Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal.
As we start to wrap up, what have been some of the biggest learnings for you that would be helpful for somebody else coming into the nonprofit world or that's struggling in the nonprofit world maybe?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was meeting nonprofits, when I was looking, one of the things I can share, I like to talk to the folks who might be considering a transition.
Yeah.
Make sure you have the right conversations to know that it's pretty clear in the nonprofit world when you're speaking to a team that really sees you as a cost center and doesn't see you as a revenue driver. And I would just encourage a lot of folks to look for those that really do. And I would encourage nonprofits just generally to really embrace technology as a revenue driver and also a furthering programmatic efforts and not just a cost center.
That's great, actually. I mean, that ties in with I'm always trying to remind business leaders, nonprofit leaders, your biggest asset is your people.
Right.
We think of our assets as equipment and technology and property or whatever, but really none of that matters if you don't have the right people. And the people are what's going to get you there.
Yeah.
And they are the revenue drivers.
They are.
Whether it's technology or it's fundraising or it's storytelling, it's that all is contributing together to, I don't know. I'm losing my analogy here, but drive the train forward. I don't know.
Right. Exactly. It's making progress on the mission possible.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great. All right. A few closing questions that we like to ask. Is there somebody in the world, and I'll open it up a little bit more than I normally do, in the world of nonprofits or the world of technology that you would most want to take to lunch and pick their brain?
This is such a good question. I think I might pick Sheryl Sandberg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why her?
Well, I read a lot of books on leadership styles, and I'm in a state right now where I'm always trying to look for ways that I can improve. And she just gets mentioned so often as having been a great mentor in this space. And so I think when someone gets mentioned that often, perhaps it's probably worth meeting them.
We're checking into.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. In your time with Charity Water, which is a little over a year now, what's one of your proudest moments?
Well, I think maybe my proudest moment was we do these annual surveys, employee engagement surveys. And when the employee engagement survey came out, I got prepped with it from the last year. And when it came out this year, we had made such huge progress in terms of the team and how the team felt about their contributions overall. And I felt like I had a big part to play in that. And so I was really, really proud of that.
That's great. All right, last question.
Yeah.
What in your job on a regular basis brings you the most joy?
I think it's working with both my executive team and my technology team. I'm in meetings all the time. I don't get to do a lot of hands-on work anymore, although I do try to dig in. But I think meeting with them and doing the coaching, that on a daily basis just gives me a lot of fulfillment overall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Christa. We could talk all day. I sometimes have a hard time keeping this podcast this short because everybody's so interesting and has so much good stuff to share. Where can people find more information about Charity Water and connect with you and all of that?
Well, more information about Charity Water can be found at charitywater.org. And connecting with me, I'm just Christa at charitywater.org. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find there and message me there.
There you go. LinkedIn is the place now.
Yeah.
It was like, I felt like it was going away.
I know.
And then all of a sudden it's got this resurgence and it's like,
true.
if you're not there, that's the place to be, man. Whoever's invested in LinkedIn's got to be really happy right now.
It's true.
All right. Well, thank you, Christa. Thank you for coming and doing this in person.
Oh, I loved
really
it.
Appreciate it. And it's been so great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
And my friends, that is a wrap for today. If you made it this far, and I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for listening to Nonprofit Connect. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it, because we really appreciate it a lot. And it's hard to say that really well. We really would like it, though, if you came back for our next episode. Only if you like to, obviously. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use and visit our website, npconnect.roguecreatives.com. Hopefully we've managed to share insights to make you feel connected and even a smidge better about your life and the world and everything. Are our goals too high? Maybe. But that's how we like things. All right. You have yourself a great day. Bye-bye. Nonprofit Connect with Matt Barnes is hosted and executive produced by me, Matt Barnes, with an assist by my chaos coordinator, Tiffany Pope. Production is by our amazing friends over at Fame, the B2B podcast agency, along with Belinda Carter-Thompson and the team here at Rogue Creatives. Production lead is Luke Audi at Fame. Writing is by Sam Hollis at Fame and Matt Barnes and Taylor Bolanos from Rogue Creatives. Nemanja Koljaja of Fame is our audio editor, and Arslan Yakub from Fame is our video editor. Creative direction is by Corey Hill of Rogue. Our artwork is designed by Hopo Kelly and Joshua Marino at Rogue, and Ian Salas of Fame. Theme music is composed and performed by Jared Atherton of Chapters. Luke Audi of Fame does our booking and our guest relations. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for joining us for this episode, and to all of you incredible listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, and I don't know why you wouldn't have, don't forget to help us spread some good by giving us a good review. Preferably, 5 stars with lots of words saying how amazing we are on whatever platform you're listening on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Also, tell your friends and subscribe so we can come straight into your potholes each and every time we have a new episode. For more information about Nonprofit Connect or to join us at a live event here in Orange County, California, visit our website, npconnect.roguecreatives.com. We'll catch you next time. This has been a Rogue Creatives production.